inner light, where truth finds voice and history breathes through personal story. Today, we are honored to be joined by Dr. Rob Wolf, physician, author, and the son of survivors. In his powerful book, Not a Real Enemy, Rob preserves the legacy of his family's harrowing escape from communism and Nazism while confronting the enduring shadow of anti Semitism. This conversation isn't just about the past, it's about how memory, resilience, and truth can guide us forward together. Welcome to the show, Rob. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. Much appreciated.
Mhm. So, your book's title, Not a Real Enemy, is haunting. What does it mean in the context of your father's story?
Well, not the book, Not a Real Enemy, the true story of Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom, an adventure. It's my dad's biography. It covers Hungary, the history of Hungary from the end of World War I to the end of Hungarian Revolution in 1956. It's the trials and tribulations of my dad's parents and family, and it's a real adventure. The book has my dad had four escapes, and there were 20 miracles in the book, which is all the reason for me to convert it from an autobiography to a biography. Not a Real Enemy. The theme of that resonates throughout the book, throughout the story, as my dad was just a Jewish man trying to practice medicine and trying to do it in freedom, ultimately. And but there's also a chapter called Not a Real Enemy. And the original, when my dad, before my dad's last and final escape, as a doctor in 1956. The night before, his risk tolerance was so high that he went into the medical staff office that was all disassembled because of the Hungarian Revolution, and he wanted to read his dossier. He wanted to see what the Soviets had to say about him, make sure he had a clean record before he was going to escape the country, so that if he got caught, maybe he didn't want to get arrested or in more trouble than he could have been. So the Soviets, the communists, in their arrogance, described my dad as not a real enemy. They called him politically immature, but in fact, he was a real enemy because, and my mom as well. My mom was a medical student when they escaped. She was 13 months away from graduating, from finishing, and they were real enemies because they loved Mother Hungary, but they wouldn't buy into Nazi Hungary or Communist Hungary, and they kept it quiet. So nobody knew what their real feelings were. They kept their cards close to their chest. So in the end, they were a real enemy because Hungary lost two good people. One was a up and coming medical student who would have been an internist in Hungary, and my dad, who was an OBGYN, and who ended up delivering 10,000 babies in the Detroit area in his career, which is kind of the punchline. We call that redemption. It doesn't bring back the 6 million Jews that perished, not to mention disabled, gay, LGBTQ people that helped the Jews, but also the 50 to 60 million in World War II that passed away, not to mention all those that passed away under communism. So my mom and dad were, in fact, a real enemy, but not a real enemy. And that was a title that my co-author thought of, and I think it's a great title. I think it's very appropriate.
It is. And how did he manage to keep his humanity amidst such betrayal and terror?
It's amazing. I mean, that's such a great question. I don't know. When I read this, I asked myself, and anybody else who's read this book says, I don't know how I could have survived what my dad went through and not show any signs of PTSD, which he didn't. I mean, he was jovial and jolly, and you would never know everything that he went through by his demeanor. It was remarkable. My dad had discipline. He had integrity. He had courage, resilience, determination, hope, friendship with the right people, being in the right place at the right time, and the way he was raised. He was well disciplined as a child. His dad was a dentist. Unfortunately, his parents perished at Auschwitz, which is part of the story. The grandparents that I never met died at 50. But bringing my dad up, he was sort of a spoiled kid. But in the end, he was well read, well disciplined, a good student. And in spite of all that, he used to get beaten by his father too from time to time when he would be late coming home, or if his academic performance was substandard, that kind of thing. So I guess my dad was well disciplined, as I think I was being raised in the same way, an old school European fashion, I suppose. But yeah, it's remarkable how he went through all of that, a miracle after miracle, escape after escape, and still came out on the other side with again no signs of PTSD and just a remarkable person.
That kind of resilience is something many can't imagine, and yet it's deeply human.
It sure is. It sure is. I mean, the humanistic story, the humanistic side of this story of this book, the novel, the biography, it's all there. I mean, it makes you cry, it makes you laugh, it can be gut wrenching, but at the same time, it's intriguing. You can instead of just empathizing with my dad and even my mom to some degree, you put yourself in his place. You actually put yourself in his shoes. I felt, especially his first escape, his other escapes, you feel it. You feel like it's you that's doing it. You feel like you're in the movie, that you're the one that's going through all of that. It's just it's remarkable how my dad did transform that story, or well, what we did. His autobiography turned into a biography, and then the way he wrote his what happened to him was it was crystal clear. It was crisp, and it was as though they wrote the stories as though the stories had happened the previous day. Remarkable.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And what was it like growing up, hearing stories of escape, loss, and survival?
Well, the first half of my life, I'm a physician myself. I'm a radiologist. I just retired from radiology after 35 years, 44 years all in when you include college, medical school, internship. So it was a long haul. But the first half of my life, these kind of issues didn't come up that much. They did from time to time. I did manage to read my dad's book, his autobiography, which was paper and pencil to typewriter to computer to manuscript, and I read it maybe 30 years ago. Didn't think much of it. I remembered his first escape vividly, and they used to talk about their final escape from Hungary, my dad's fourth, from time to time. And whenever there was a family fight, he would bring up how tough it was in the forced labor camp and how spoiled we were in the free world and how good we have it. I guess that was his release. I mean, and his release also was just practicing medicine, and not only that, meeting people, learning about other cultures. My mom and dad had friends all over the world. They loved culture. They loved art, history, museums, theater, opera, travel, education. They were very well-rounded people, and I was lucky to have parents like that. And if you don't have love at home, if you don't have good parents, good family, to me, you have nothing. So I guess the strength in my father hopefully it carried on with me. But yeah, the first half of my life, not so much. Second half, a lot more. I got a little bit of Holocaust fatigue from my mom talking about it all the time. Within their education or spreading education, they taught people about the Holocaust and about communism and about the dark world and how horrible it was, and they didn't want to have people forget about that. So they carried on that, whereas a lot of people couldn't. Obviously, a lot of people didn't survive, so they couldn't tell their story, unfortunately. But many that did survive apparently were unable or unwilling to share the story as well. So, if you knew me 6, 7 years ago, you would say, this guy, I'm not a writer by profession, but now I am. But, I'm more into anatomy, physiology, science, math, that kind of thing. And now I'm an English major and a marketing guru and a history aficionado. So I've been transformed, and it was all because of this story. It was just so amazing, and when I read it, I couldn't just leave it on a computer or a disc. I had to share it with the world because I just couldn't believe what my dad had to endure.
Mm-hmm. But was there a moment you knew you had to turn these stories into a book?
Yeah, well, you nailed it on the head. 2000. So the history, or a brief history. So my mom and dad did the autobiography in the 70s, like crystal clear. The sounds, the smells, the way the table was set, the cold, the fear, all of that. It was just so vivid that it really was intriguing to me. So they wrote in the 70s, and then it became finally, after it got onto the computer, it got onto a disc. My dad passed in 1997, unfortunately. My mom in 2016, unfortunately. And then a historian friend of the family handed me the disc and said, "You really need to read this. You really should look at this." Didn't think much of it at the time. Took a year to take care of my mom's affairs after she passed. Then I took a year to retire. Then I went back to work as a radiologist in 2018. A friend of mine was short and they needed some help reading X-rays and ultrasound out of Michigan, so I started doing that, and that brought me to the disc, and that brought me to the story. And so between reading cases and the X-rays, I loaded up the disc and I would read my dad's story, and I converted his autobiography into a biography. I would dictate page by page, chapter by chapter, with as much fidelity as possible. Of course, reviewing the culture, having it confirmed by historians, reviewing the history, countless of hours going over films and photographs, and then ultimately hiring my co-author who helped me run with this book. And if it wasn't for her, Janice Harper, we wouldn't be here. I mean, the 4 awards that the book has won and all the accolades. And so 2018 is really when it struck me that I got it was like Superman's kryptonite. It just sort of called out to me and converted my way of thinking in life.
Turning inherited pain into a published legacy is an act of deep courage and honor.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sticking my neck out there. It's my dad had the courage, obviously, with 4 escapes and hiding places and always on the run and multiple miracles. But yeah, I mean, I guess it takes courage to try to fight hate and racism and anti-Semitism because there is a lot of it out there, especially after October 7th. Of course, we've experienced it after 9/11, which some people still deny. We had that Islamophobia, which I don't think is correct. I think that's inappropriate and ignorant. And same with the hatred towards Jewish people because of October 7th and what happened in Gaza. And none of that has anything to do with me or you or what happened to my parents. It was just pure hatred, pure anti-Semitism, pure persecution, genocide, all of that. So just to try to survive, just to try to stay alive, to scrounge for food, shelter, and clothing, which we take for granted here in the free world, but for my mom and dad was everything. Yeah, there was courage every day, and my dad's parents actually showed courage too, knowing any day they could be taken to Auschwitz and killed, and that's what happened. And they faced it with dignity and pride, and I can't imagine the fear in all of that for sure. I just can't imagine. One podcast, the gentleman, my host, said the opposite of love is fear, and I get that. I see that. I mean, I see that with people in North Korea and Iran and in the people under Hamas rule and on and on. But to me, the opposite of love is apathy or indifference. So it's a little bit different. But courage is important. Courage is an important part of survival. It's an important part of independence, and it's an important part of integrity and trust.
Definitely. And how do you view the rise of modern anti-Semitism in the light of your family's past?
Well, it's a great question. And, when I wrote this, when we did this project starting in 2018, I never would have expected what happened in October 7th and all the events that followed. It's still going on, with the college campus protests and the bullying of Jewish people around the world. I could imagine that the stories would be so poignant. I mean, what we were talking about, it was 60, 80, 100 years ago, but the song remains the same. The sad thing, and we can go back to the Old Testament if you want. We go back to Exodus, where the Jewish people were enslaved for hundreds of years in Egypt until they finally were released after under the hand of God. I mean, according to the Bible, according to the Old Testament. So we can go back that far, but it's just the sad part is even though the song remains the same, it's just crazy the way people find new ways to torture, to persecute, to kill, to maim, to starve people. It's just so sad that all of their people find these new methods instead of finding new methods in making peace, in an attempt to make peace with people.
For sure. And what are some subtle ways anti Semitism still shows up in today that many people overlook?
Well, again, it's apathy. What we need is I'm educating people about my dad's story and make them realize that hate rears its ugly head in many ways. We all know about the concentration camps, but not a lot of people know about the forced labor camps. These men were slaves. They were young men who were, and some young women too, by the way. They were useful, and of course, kids and younger people in the concentration camps were also put to work. There's a famous sign. I think it's to paraphrase, work shall set you free at Auschwitz. I'm not sure if that's the exact translation, but you get the gist of it. But yeah, no, anti-Semitism is it just rears its ugly head in many ways. Whether it's denial of education, denial to go shopping, own a radio, which happened in Hungary, limited exposure to the streets, having to be in during curfews, that kind of thing. So there's so many different ways for anti-Semitism to rear its head. But for my dad, since he was useful, he was in a slave labor camp and lucky to survive. He escaped twice from the forced labor camps with his friend Frank, once in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, and second time in Budapest, right in front of Nazi headquarters, if you can believe that. Another amazing story, split-second timing, luck, and again, courage. And I like to think of as the hand of God and the eye of God watching over them. But no, it rears its head in so many different ways. And by the way, not a lot of people know about death marches for these slave laborers, which my dad and his friend Frank thought that they were in before their first escape, so they got the hell out of there, and so many other ways. But the other thing is, not a lot of people know that only about 5% of the slave laborers survived World War II, and my dad was one of them because he was on the run or hiding. But those that were still around or were still slaves were treated as prisoners of war, so they're put in POW camps, even though they were never armed throughout the war. All they had was these stupid, ridiculous hats and these yellow armbands that they had to wear, and they got shelled at, they got shot at too by Russian planes flying by too. So even though they were unarmed, very very sad.
That awareness is crucial because silence is never neutral in the face of hate.
Well, that's so well said. You know how many people have said that? Famous people like Simon Wiesenthal, who's a very, very big. He's a survivor and a very big advocate of Holocaust education. There are several museums and Holocaust centers that are named after him, and he's not the only. MLK has said the same kind of thing. Maya Angelou talking about hate. Hate never did. I want to paraphrase because I don't know the exact quote, but she said hate. Hate has never done anything good. It's never done anything good. It's never done anything to help mankind. It's only done bad. Hate in general. I'm sorry, I don't mean to butcher her expression, but there are many people out there that say just what you said, that ignoring it or letting it fly by, being apathetic. And it's my job and many other people too to try to reverse that kind of thinking. And ultimately, I'm educating people. I've done many podcasts. That thank you again for having this. This is one of, I'm over 100 podcasts and 25 TV and radio interviews, 37 book presentations, and I'm lining up more and more. And ultimately, I want the book and the story to be taught in the classroom, whether it's 6th, 7th, 8th grade, high school, college, history classes, Holocaust education, yeshiva, summer reading, just general lectures. Maybe some Holocaust education should be made mandatory, especially in these universities that are undergoing all of these protests. I think that would be a wonderful addition to that curriculum to try to educate these students, and not just Jewish and Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Asian, Buddhist, you name it, so that we don't have to go through this. I remember the Haitian-aid after the coronavirus epidemic. That was ridiculous too, indiscriminately blaming a whole group of people just because of a virus, or a whole group of people because of the 9/11 attacks, that kind of thing. October 7th now, as it turns out, for the Jewish people.
100%. And what would you want every reader, Jewish or not, to carry with them after finishing the book?
Well, one big thing is everybody has a story of their own. I mean, if you have a story, put it on paper, write a book. If you know a survivor, if you are one, and you're willing to share the story, please do. And it doesn't have to be about the Holocaust. It could be any type of survival or a good story, something about your career. If you're bored with your life, change vectors, do something different, give back to the community, spend more time with your family, give some money to charity, travel, educate, write a book, write a play, write a movie, anything. Do something, give back to the community, do something helpful. Don't protest. Don't whimper and whine about how things are and how things. We're free to elect people. We're free to practice our religion, and people should appreciate that. And that's why we teach about the dark world, that people should appreciate how good we have it here, and realize that it could turn on you in a dime. What happened to my dad could happen to any one of us. Bad neighbor, bad business deal, government, local government, federal government, foreign government, natural disaster, anything could change your life in a heartbeat where you're homeless, running around looking for food, shelter, and not even knowing where you're where you're going to sleep or where you're going to be working. So can't take things for granted.
Mhm. And stories like these ensure that history doesn't disappear, it deepens and hopefully wakes us up.
Amen to that. Amen. I can't say it I can't say it any better. I think we have to keep these stories rolling through, and we ultimately that can reduce. Education is going to be the key. Education is going to help fight racism, hate, and anti-Semitism for sure.
Mhm. So, Rob, thank you for carrying your family's story with such integrity and for reminding us that remembering is resistance. And to our listeners, history lives in more than books, it lives in our awareness, our compassion, and our courage to speak up. May we all become protectors of memory and defenders of dignity. So, until next time, keep your heart open, your light steady, and your voice strong.